falling on the people at the lower end. And we're now going to, if this passes, we're going to increase a little bit. And
And one of the things I would just clarify, this committee's suggesting maybe.
correct.
The taxpayers
The taxpayer,
will
correct.
decide
Absolutely,
what
absolutely.
they're going to
But-
tax
and-
themselves.
and-
I mean, let's not forget
Right.
that.
And I do want to acknowledge, if I didn't say it, I will say it again, withdrawal would be an absolute disaster. There's no doubt about it. But we're not there. We're not at withdrawal, okay?
Yes, sir.
I just think it's really important that people understand that the last proposal and proposal before that, in each of those cases, even though people might not like change, the funding formula that we presented the last time, the time before that, they were all fair tax formulas. Every town was assessed the same way. You might not like that it shifted a little bit from property taxes to pupils or pupils, but 30% of the districts in this state work on a pupil and property tax system, at least, I counted. So about a third of the regions in the state do it that way. That's what the original, the legislation that went through in 2005 said you could do. So it's not like we're trying to reinvent the wheel here. We're just going towards a system that other districts use. But it's not like we're giving a tax cut to Newry. Or giving them a different deal than everyone else. They've got the same exact formula as all the other towns. And it's just important to understand that, because I think it gets said a lot, oh, we're giving a special deal to Newry. And it's really just not true. In every single one of these cases, the formula's been the same for every town in the district, all two times. And it's really important not to muddy that water and to make up those statements, because it's not true. The formula's the same for all the towns, every time.
The effect is different. The
The
effect
tax-
of where the taxes shift from is different. Well, no, not maybe.
For right now. But if Newry came up with 30 more kids in their town, it would shift the other way.
Not as much.
No, it would. If it changed, it would shift the other way.
One of the
And on
things.
the other hand, if the current situation, if Newry had 100 students, they would still be paying the same amount of money right now. Right now, as it stands right now, they'd be paying the same amount of money if they had
Based on valuation.
200 students.
One of the things I would just say to you, for places that do not have special purpose law, the district that I worked in for years, for 20 years, when the state changed to the EPS formula, the state funding formula, y'all talk about like it's been around for 50 years. It really has not been around for 50 years. 2005, 2006, I mean, there have been changes in the 40 years I've worked in public education. That in that district that I worked in, there were 9 towns. The town of Weld, when it came to the actual, whether they were paying on valuation for the state portion of the budget, or whether they paid on the number of students that they had, they paid on the number of students that they had, because their valuation was very high. So that's what got put into the formula. So, I mean, everybody that doesn't have that is of the major part of the formula. I'm not talking about, and then the additional local, they then did 100% valuation. That was a pretty common practice initially. So that's how pupils have sort of been factored in. In most places, unless you're very high value, your mill rate factors are controlling with regards to how much you end up paying versus what the state's going to give you in that ED 279, which probably if you've been on the school board, you've been bored to death when David's gone over that with you folks. But anyway, that's how that factors in most school systems in the state of Maine. So if you were, if it were not pure valuation or fiscal capacity, it would be a shift. Was there other yes, sir.
So, two things.
Sorry, Allison.
Peter, you make a great point. Newry's willing to pay its fair share. You know, if it goes to a student population and evaluation and things change, which they will, things are going to change over time. Newry could pay more, and no one's arguing that. It's not being treated the same as everybody else. I hear you, Michelle, on, it's the same, we're one community, I get it. But why are we different than everybody? So I'm kind of blown away though with, from the very beginning, I thought we could only do one thing. We could only have one question on the ballot. If we added a second, that it meant it needed to be passed by every town. So I
Yeah,
just
it's
want to
not-
confirm that that's not the case?
No, that's not, and I think I said that was never the case in terms of the way that our attorney interpreted it, because he's looking at it as a condition as opposed to changing the formula. Like if you were adding a third category,
Right.
you're basing this on
Yep.
population, valuation, and the number of red Volkswagens in each town.
Yeah.
That would be a condition. This is a stipulation, or that would be a component, I guess. And I'm confusing the two terms, but basically he said this would not, he doesn't feel this would be another
So that,
criteria.
that's his opinion,
Yeah.
which I appreciate, and I
Yeah.
trust the guy, you know,
Yeah.
he does a great job, but is there any chance he's mistaken? Because that...
At the amount we pay him per hour, I hope it doesn't happen often.
But Marcel, you said it, that is game changing. That
It is a
is
game
game
changer.
changing for the
Right.
store. I'm sorry, Norm, you said it.
Right.
That's absolutely game changing. That's very, very different than what we talked about at the first couple of meetings. So I just want to make sure that,
Yeah. No, it's something that I've been saying to people.
Yeah.
But, you know, I will get that in writing from him as well.
Yeah.
But because what he's saying is, it's something that this committee can do. It's not something that could be imposed on this committee by somebody else.
got it.
So,
And then this committee brings it to the voters, and the voters...
Yeah, and the voters decide.
Make the decision. Right.
yeah.
If I may, I manage about 200 condos on the mountain. Okay, so I get to know the owners. I've been doing it a couple of years now. There's this sense that all the skiers are rich. A lot of these condo owners, they paid $30,000, $35,000, $38,000 for these condos back in the 80s. So they're not mega rich. I mean, these condos are 600 square feet. They're worth between $100,000, $112,000, $115,000. You know, you've got the big houses up on the peaks and the Colony and all these other subdivisions. But a lot of the condo owners, and the guys who work at the bottom understand that, you know, they're getting in their 60s, 70s, 80s. They're not all super rich people. And they don't complain about their taxes. They just want to see their roads fixed up a little bit. They don't understand how they come up and their roads all full of bumpy and they're paying all these taxes with 20-some odd kids. So I see both sides of it. But to Marcel's point, they're not all super rich people. You know, they put it in a rental program to help pay the quarterly dues, to help pay me and pay the taxes and things like that. They're not all super rich. So keep that in mind, that we're not dealing with the mega rich like on the coast. Some of them, I mean, a large percent of them are just folks like us that like to ski and they want to drive 3 hours on a Saturday, and they do put them in the rental program. There's a lot more involved than people think up on that mountain.
Sure.
Yep, and I'm not super rich. I have a condo too, so I pay nary taxes, but I'm not super rich. But one thought, and could possibly be a concern, it's related but unrelated, is the one unit, our community. And Newry's a town, the lines blur when it becomes a district, but they're also dependent on the rest of us, Bethel and Woodstock and Greenwood. That resort and the development that has been a byproduct of it, that we enjoy, that Newry particularly enjoys with their municipal tax, it's the lowest around, so they do get that benefit. It's not God-given. It takes all of us to have and maintain, to get that value out of that resort. It's not God-given like the coast. We have to work. It's like a paper mill. If you don't have the workers to go there, if you don't have the services and the goods and such, I mean, Newry doesn't have it. It depends on everybody else. And that's how we get to this one community, one unit, and to be able to maintain that. I mean, we have kids of workers who live up at Sunday River who are here and live in Bethel. It's just that the nature of that valuation is dependent on all of us. And as the resort divests itself of some of its services, the services are coming, into Bethel. Why would we have a lopsided tax, one business on the Sunny River Road paying one thing and another one on the other thing? So it's just a point to make that the value that's there isn't God-given, and it takes this whole region to keep it together. Newry enjoys the low municipal tax, and all of us can enjoy the education and public education benefit. All these concerns and points I think have been brought out over the last 3 years. Again, the state is coming here and is offering a cost-sharing formula as a cookie-cutter solution. Are there any other solutions out there that can take into consideration the residents of Newry without compromising the benefit of the value of the second homeowners? I mean, has anything like a double homestead exemption been explored? Some other solutions?
We don't have the power. You do not have the authority to do that. That's a statewide issue, and that's a much bigger, not that it's a bad idea. That's just not something this committee could do. Yes.
I just think we're getting into the weeds a little bit when we start talking about mill rates in individual towns, because they're based on more than what you pay for schools or the county, are all based on the same thing, but then it's what the towns prioritize for projects and what services they offer. And it's also still all about location, so just because my house is in Newry doesn't mean it may be valued higher than a house in Bethel because of location. That's what real estate's about, and that's how tax assessment is determined on sale. So it's getting kind of weedy when we start talking about mill rates in individual towns.
Thank you. I don't want to cut off conversation, though. I think, I appreciate what you're saying, and I think we've gone down a few weedy paths. But it's, in my opinion, I think it's a healthy discussion to have. Yes.
I was just going to say it's starting to get late and we should just keep moving forward
All
on
right.
the agenda.
Anyone else? We are on committee members' thoughts and concerns. Anyone who would like to? Yes.
I just want to say, Newry's taxes, 75% of their taxes go to the schools. I think Woodstock, 50%.
52%.
52%. Yes, we do have second-family homes, but all the other 3 towns also have second-family homes. I think Woodstock has, 50% of,
Yeah, probably.
something like that.
Don't quote me.
So everybody has second-family homes in the district. It's just not all Newry. Newry might have a little bit more because of the mountain and everything. But we do, we are paying 75% to the school. We do only have 25% left for municipal services, and everybody thinks that Newry is a rich town because of the skiway. That's really not so, in my opinion.
All right. Any last thoughts?
I'm just interested, I know Ron had a different proposal on funding over 10 years. We know what we had before over 8 years. We've heard the no, we shouldn't change the formula. I was wondering if anyone else had a different proposal. Timing and phasing and
I was just noticing that the second vote was closer than the first, and the second vote was 8 years and the first vote was 3 years, so it should be closer to 8. Like, obviously, it should be a long term.
And I think when we started the last committee, we actually had 10 years on what had been handed out, and we took 2 years out of it at that point because the people who crafted it had only planned on 8 years, and somehow a couple of extra years had gotten into the one that was passed around. I will just hand this around. This is actually the last. Just get the motion. Yes, Brian.
Yeah, I actually voted against the first motion of 3 years because I knew that my taxpayers, that was a pretty big burden for them to go ahead and actually absorbed that in 3 years.
Yeah.
And then I went ahead and actually supported 8, but tonight I have a 10-year.
You want me to vote zero?
So,
This is the same thing.
this, all this is this is the 8-year, this was the sample ballot. So I asked David to make copies, because,
The last time's ballot.
so, well, I'll just do what this one says, then we'll, if other people have other thoughts, we'll get them out on the table, okay? This one starts, and then of course these years would all be bumped up a year, but it starts with 95.5, and that was for a 2-year cycle, then 3 years at 90.10, 2 years at 88.12, and then from that point forward, it would be an 85.15. And they use fiscal capacity. You'll notice that language right in there. So, Ronnie, you wanted, the one you had was a 10-year one, correct?
Yep.
And yours had 2 years for 95.5, so
Yep.
that's the same. But you had 3 years for 90.10. No,
Correct.
Actually, that's the same.
Yep,
You had 3 years, though, for 88.12.
correct.
And it's actually a 9-year plan, because the 85.15,
Correct.
once you get there, you don't need
Correct.
to repeat it. So it's really a 9-year,
Yep.
9-step process. 85.15 would be, so really, you're just adding, and what your proposal was, you're adding an 88.12 step.
I am.
But that's only one additional.
That's right. When he, if you looked at what
No,
Woodstock had done.
but this one was 8, and
Correct.
he's proposing 10.
Well,
So that would suggest that we have 3, 3, 3, and then the last one.
when he suggested it, if you looked at the sheet, he had 85.15 starting in year 9.
Yeah.
You don't need to put it in a year 10. Because once you get 85, that's where you're gonna stop. So his was really a 9-step plan.
Correct.
I'm not making it clear. Do you see up at the top?
It's really only 9 on the chart.
This is gonna be
3.
forever.
Yeah, he's saying,
Add the third one, 12, and make it 3.
he's saying 2026 would be, right, that's right. Okay, that is that. That
Okay,
is-
so,
I think it's the same.
if the original one that went to the voters was 2 years at 95.5, 3 at 90.10, and 2 at 88.12, and Ron's suggestion is that we add another year at 88.12, and we discount the last year. I'm sorry, but I still only come up with 8.
Yeah,
No,
it is.
he's not discounting the last
It
year.
is actually.
I actually think Norm's right, because once you're at 85.15, you're done.
Right.
And that's, in year 8, you're already at 85.15 under Ron's plan, no?
No, you're 88.12 again, I think.
88.12.
So,
You got 388.12.
3, 3 at 9.
So he's saying
Another
this should be 88.
The ninth year would be
So
85.
it's 2027. That's, is it 2027 that it would be
Just 1
85?
year.
2017. Okay.
2027.
Which plan
The one that's on here,
would be 2027?
7. So 2026 would be
Also it's
8812,
90s.
and 2027 would be
First time he said it,
8550.
he only
Yes.
had years.
If you do
Oh, okay.
Ron's,
If you.
if you add
my
an additional one,
recommendation.
it bumps it up to 2028. I think I just share your concern.
That's-
Well, the only thing I'm wondering about is, for that difference, is this going to confuse people more than it's going to, allow you to go back and just, if you are going to reconsider something, reconsidering the vote that you've already put out there and maybe just doing a better job explaining it,
Yeah.
as opposed to complicating it a little bit by adding that one more year. I just throw that out there as a question.
You have a valid point.
Yeah,
Well, that's why, when
Well,
you said that to me, you do
yeah.
get into it with,
But the voters are not gonna remember this.
That's probably true.
So what they're going to have in front of them is a potential lengthening of the proposal. And if we have an additional stipulation, may not be the right word, but if there is an additional language in the vote, they rejected it soundly at 3 years.
Right.
There was a considerable narrow vote when it went to 8 years
Yeah, without a condition.
without a condition. If we go to 10 years with a condition, I think it will pass.
uh,
That would be
10
my
years or 9
take.
years?
9
It's
years.
really 9 years. Okay, I just wanted, because you can do 10, I mean, the committee can do, you can create something completely different.
I just have a question for the new people in the group. What was the vetting process and the points in the decision-making that got it to end at 85-15?
That had been the goal for the
So
very first withdrawal committee, the goal was to get to 85-15 and stop at that point. So I think, and that was over, am I correct? It was a 3-year cycle. It was that's too fast. That really, and then when it went to 8, again, the end point was 85-15. They did some steps so that your changes are incremental.
There was no particular reason.
Well,
It
I
was
mean,
5%
why
per year for
why
3
are we
years.
assuming that that's the goal here now, 85-15? Why isn't it, why not 95-5 in 1 year and that's it? I mean, I guess if you can, let me understand a little bit of the vetting, let me try to catch up to where you guys are.
The goal was to have 15% of it eventually be student population, and not just 5%.
And I think the reasoning behind it, Michelle, was that it was not going to have a significant impact on the other communities as much as if you went to a 50-50, something along those lines. You know, and
Well,
so
why not a 90-10?
this committee could come up with anything. You're not,
If I may,
And
Michelle.
last time, Michelle, the town managers got together, and
Right.
this was kind of their proposal.
Right.
So there was like this already kind of backing
it just
from the
expanded.
other
From the
towns.
managers.
Wendy is right. We came together as leadership in the towns, took a look at this, and we started with that foundation. We wanted to get to that end. And again, as I say, I, and the leadership, felt as though 3 years is way too much, too soon for our taxpayers to handle in Woodstock. And that's why we went to 8 to get to that 85-15, which was really less impact. And if we add one more, it's really going to help us. And with the language, I think this will go. And if I may, I believe the NURI Withdrawal Committee would support that extra step.
I want to make sure everybody here is,
Does anyone know if you get Newry to 85-15, what happens to Bethel, Greenwood, and Woodstock?
I can give you my answers
That would help,
at Woodstock.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can. Let's say we go through the 9 years.
Yeah?
Okay, my overall, the town of Woodstock's overall increase when we crunch the numbers. Now remember, this is only based on what we have now.
Yeah.
The school budget, our town budget, and Oxford County's budget right
Yeah,
now.
that's
We
fine.
know in the future, we don't know what that may be.
Yeah.
But 87,000, and then the overall mill rate would be 41 cents on a mill over that period of time.
41 cents.
But what are the percentages? Like if Newry's 85-15, what are the percentages for the other towns? Like I heard
It's all the
that.
same for everyone.
everybody's
We're
all
gonna- So the goal is to get them all to 85-15?
Right now, it's
Right
zero.
now, they're all 100%
Right now, it's
valuation.
100.
Okay,
so
Yeah,
the
100%.
formula
yeah.
gets applied the same to every
To
town.
all, okay.
So,
It's the individual taxpayer who actually pays the tax that has the shift put on them.
So in Woodstock's a 41 cent, oh, and then we said, don't talk about mill rate.
Well, no, the school mill rate stays
All
the
right.
same.
That's right.
So what
We're
Martha-
just looking at our mill, what would we have to increase.
So what Martha's, I think, interested in, I think what's important just for this committee to know is voters are not going to get a 15% change in their taxes. this is going to be applied to their mill rate, to their budget. So do you have the figures for the other towns? What?
No, I was
Does anybody
only,
have?
I was
we had
only
them- I think we had them in
concerned
the past, the approximate change to each taxpayer. We have it now for Woodstock.
Dennis might help.
For Greenwood, it was zero or extremely negligible. I mean, it was,
I can tell you,
What is it for Bethel?
hold on. I do have a printout that the Department of Ed did for the last time. And just current budget, if you were at 8515, let's just go there. Currently, and I'll just do percentages, Bethel is 34.2%. It would go to 37.44%.
Of the Bethel budget.
Of the local fund,
That's Bethel's share of the full.
Yes.
Okay, so that,
Then-
so you have to.
let me-
okay, Go ahead.
Greenwood is 12.5%. It would go to 12.49%. I think that sort of verifies what you said. Nuri is 37%. They would go down to 32.48%. And Woodstock was 16%, they would be, it says 17.59%. Now, that's current budget, that doesn't take into account. That was, if you were at 8515, and this is projecting the budget's gonna pass, so I'm looking at the budget that you, I assume, the budget you passed the other night. It just gives you an idea. It's about 3 percentage points in Bethel. 3 percentages work better than giving you dollar figures.
over 8 or 9 years.
Right, over 8 or 9 years.
So I think it basically figures out, correct me if I'm wrong, but Nuri, after the 10 years, would get roughly a 10% break on their school budget. Because it's really not 15.
I think it's 5.
Right? It's not really the whole 15 based on, it's not 15%, which people are confused on. But
No.
it's approximately $300,000, $300,000.
They would get about a 5%.
It's not a 5.
5 points.
About 5% on,
Right.
it's a big amount of money, because of this valuation.
5% of the total tax base would be freed up for other stuff. Is that what you're saying?
Well, you say total tax base or
5%
school
of the
portion?
school
We're
portion.
only talking school.
5%.
We're only talking school.
School budget.
Yes, sir.
So the 8515, if I remember correctly, and I was on the first board, the way that went is we all stated our opinion. The coordinator, facilitator, Jake, at that point said, okay, thank you very much, I'll get back to you. He went away, did his homework, and he was the one who was the first to put the 8515 on the table. But, so, which I saw as, okay, this is someone who's not, an outside person looking in, saying what's fair, what's equitable. Here was his proposal. And that's where the 8515 came from the first time.
Yeah, I would also just throw this out there too, it's a little bit different topic, but the first time that you had a cost-sharing formula that went to the voters, there was very little attempt on the part of anybody, perhaps other than the board, to get the word out and kind of make sure people were aware of what it was. The second time, there was more involvement in that the selectmen and the town managers became involved, and it was disappointing that we did not see a good turnout when we had our public hearing with the attorney who, basically could have explained the whole thing. But there was a second one and it got delayed and that became a problem. I think the takeaway that I see from it is that now everybody's going, uh-oh, we should have been more involved. And I certainly get the impression that there'll be a much more active attempt to try to make sure everybody understands the process, so that if someone goes to vote, I had a person who was working in Bethel say, a bunch of people came up and said, I don't know what this is. And so everybody involved is going to have to work to get the vote out, word out about what the vote means, and then let the voters decide yea or nay.
There's one other thing that I would really hope people would do in the future, and that's our district budget meetings are really totally underrepresented. We get very few people showing up. And I think it would really help if business community came to those budget hearings, because now we're going to be passing budgets every year. with a different formula, if that's what the voters want. And I hate to see, even though the budget passes handily every year, I really do hate seeing 50, 60 people in a meeting pass an $11 million budget. It's just,
And the other piece that we are concerned about is, people in the room tonight, we're saying, okay, well, we want to make sure the budget doesn't get hurt. But I think the same conversation has to take place after this vote to help people remember that there was a decision made to make this shift and not to expect to come back and carve that amount of money out of the school budget. So, and I think everybody that's spoken to that is agreeable to that, but it's, a lot changes, so we got to make sure that word gets out as well.
Just looking at time for people, can I just get a thumbs up or just, my question is going to be pretty simple. May not like it myself, but I'm going to put it out there. One is-
don't assume anything about me.
Okay.
Go ahead.
8-year or 9-year? Just if we were to do, so how many would be in favor of doing a 9-year instead of an 8-year? How many want to stay with an 8-year? So it would appear 9 years had more people supporting it than 8.
People didn't vote.
But there were several people who
Yeah,
did.
maybe.
I just don't have any
It
strong
doesn't matter.
feelings on it.
8 or 9.
I just don't have strong feelings, 8 or 9.
I have a quick question. How much is the local share that we have to come up with?
8 million,
8.2. And how much of that share does Bethel have to?
8 million to 34% of that, so a third of that, roughly, give or take. Get the number right there. There's no big enough.
2,800,000? That doesn't, that's just a state formula.
Is that required local?
It's not the additional amount of, it's the additional amount.
That's Bethel, based on that budget,
Yeah.
100%.
It's about 3 million.
Bethel pays.
Newry and Bethel are usually pretty close to each other, and every year, one of them is a little bit more than the other.
So does somebody wish to put a motion on the floor with regards to a funding formula for consideration by this committee?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we propose a funding formula to the voters where, starting in 2020, we go to 95% fiscal capacity and 5% pupil count. That continues through 2021, changes to 90-10 in 22, 23, and 24, and then 88-12 in 25, 26, and 27, wherever that winds up. So 9 years, and then, or I guess in the 9th year, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. In the 9th year, it would go to 85-15 for the,
From there.
in perpetuity. And that we also include a statement that says that this, if voters approve this, that this will go into effect if Newry decides to end their withdrawal process. And if they do not, then we'll just stay with the current 100% funding.
Can I just can I ask just for clarification? Would we be okay if I had the attorney craft that last
No, yeah,
phrase?
absolutely.
Okay, all right. Yeah,
Intent is to tell the attorney what you want.
right. Then have him charge us
Is
to
there
do
a
what we
second
asked him
to
to
that
do.
motion?
Yeah.
Literally.
I just want a clarification. Peter, you started in 2020 because I don't know, we can change the formula for this year.
Right, that's what I started in 2020.
So you're going to 2028?
22,
Yes, 2028 is when
Is
Yeah,
to-
27, and it
So 29, it goes to 85-15.
yeah, it's
I think
it's
it
9
goes to
years.
84.
So would it be okay, could you repeat the motion using the actual question language? Maybe that would be,
Let me, Peter, you can check it out, what I think I heard you say, okay? So you can- I'm going to read the language that was do you favor changing the method of sharing costs among the towns in Maine School Administrative District number 44 from the current method that bases both the required local and additional local funds on 100% fiscal capacity, valuation in parentheses, of the towns to a method that bases both the required local additional local funds on a combination of required local and additional local funds at a combination of 85-15 fiscal capacity and 85% fiscal capacity valuation, 15% pupil count to be phased in over 9 years as set forth below. In 2020, 95.5, 2021, 95.5, 2022, 90-10, 2023, 90-10, 2024, 90-10, 2025, 88-12, 2026, 88-12, 2027, 88-12, and 2028 and thereafter, 85-15.
Correct.
Is that right?
With
Yeah.
the language.
Yeah.
With the language.
Right.
And the language will be that if the funding formula passes, then it will not be implemented or go into effect until the town of Newry votes to stop
Or
that
unless,
withdrawal
yeah.
process. Right?
Well, I think you want to clarify that, though. I mean, do you want to say until, or do you want to say unless? I almost think it would have to be unless,
It's unless.
because you don't want to drag it out.
About
so.
a year? Okay,
I
unless.
think unless is,
But it gives them, if you don't, then if it gets delayed a year or two, then all your dates are off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The addition is sort of, and they would have time, because if this goes to a vote in June, it can't be implemented for a whole year. So there's plenty of time for their committee to make a decision on what it's going to do. And if they decide they don't want to do that, as I understand it, even if this passes, then they stay with the current
Nothing
funding.
changes.
Right.
Clarification for anyone?
Yes.
Is it clarification or discussion?
Discussion.
Is there any chance that the newbies on the committee could have more time to think about it and we could come back to vote on it? Or could you all vote and see if it passes? And I think I know how I want to vote, but I mean, it's a lot of responsibility. I've only been here for 2.5 hours, 2 hours. Is it possible that we could vote on another night, I guess is what I'm saying. It's a lot of responsibility for someone that's new to all this.
If we come to another night, what does that do to get this on the ballot?
make it tighter.
Huh?
It'll make it tighter.
One day or 1 week?
Even in a week.
You are coming up against a time crunch to get it on the June ballot.
Does it have to be 45 days?
The board would have to set the referendum date on May 7th. It can't go any later than that. The next board meeting is May 7th. That's when they'll be doing their budget. It can't be delayed.
The other option is to vote. I could abstain. If it passes by a majority, then it doesn't matter. I'm still here.
I'm ready to vote for this, actually. It may be surprising to you, but there is one thing that I'd like to see happen. I would really like to see as many voters as possible vote on this. I think that's the best way that we get the best turnout. That would basically mean not having it in June and having it in November when we have a gubernatorial. June is a primary election, November is a gubernatorial and representative election, and the turnout is typically greater. So I will, it's not a condition for voting tonight, but I'm saying that to address Martha's concern, I don't think there's a rush, and I think it would be better served to the voters for them to have the best turnout possible.
Martha?
I'd even be satisfied with like a 5 or 10 minute recess that I could just privately ask them clarifying questions when I'm.
I need a bathroom break.
Yeah, like I'd be fine with that.
That's a good idea.
That, give you can talk with you, whatever, but is that all right?
Did you
Is
have
that all right
something
if
to
I
say
have
as
a
well?
bathroom break?
But November, that's the board's decision.
The last time we did that, there was a new person.